Rachel Reeves is spending money on art classes for illegal migrants and benefits for foreigners whilst crippling you with tax rises. Here's what Rachel Reeves said before the last election.
Conservatives are now the party of high tax.
Rachel Reeves increased taxes by a record £40 billion in her first budget. It's the highest tax burden in modern history.
I worked as an economist at the Bank of England before entering politics.
She exaggerated the length of time she worked there, and she said that she worked as an economist at the Bank of Scotland, whereas actually she worked in the complaints department.
I believe in sound money and in public spending that's kept under control.
Labour has borrowed £83.6 billion this financial year. They voted down welfare reforms. We now have a welfare bill that's around £303 billion a year. No wonder she was brought to tears in Parliament. Then after her budget, she said this.
We have now drawn a line under the inheritance that I faced. Public finances are now on a firm footing, and also our public services are funded in a proper way. And we've now set the envelope for those public services for the rest of this Parliament, which means we're not going to have to come back for more.
And now today, she finally appeared to have admitted that there will be more tax rises. In fact, if the reports are right, she's about to raise taxes more than any other G7 country. Look at this. Higher tax rises than Germany, the US, France, Italy, Japan and Canada. There are now warnings that she's going to raise income tax, and she's probably going to limit the amount that you can save tax-free every year. But remember, when your taxes go up again, today it's emerged that nearly £10 billion is being spent every year just on benefits for foreigners. Nearly 17% of all universal credit payments are given to non-UK citizens. Migrants who have arrived since January 2021 could end up costing taxpayers, are you ready for this? £234 billion. Illegals being deported are being given free arts and craft classes, IT lessons. They've even got a welfare buddy. So don't worry, when you see your taxes go up, you can sleep easy because you paid for someone to give an Afghan a hug. I wouldn't be surprised if we were paying for someone to give them a bedtime story on their flight back home as well. The deportation centres alone cost you £260 million. Forget her blubbering in the House of Commons. Rachel Reeves is about to make the entire country weep. Let's get the thoughts of my panel on this. Director of Popular Conservatives, Mark Littlewood. We've got Reform UK Councillor Russell Quirk and journalist and broadcaster Nina Mishkov. Right, Mark, OK, so she has basically said today that taxes are going up, despite everything that I've just played for you there. I mean, untenable or not, her position? What do you think?
Colour me unsurprised. I mean, I don't think this is surprising at all. It's disappointing, of course. She claimed to have fixed it once. She had this supposed black hole she'd inherited from the Conservatives. Apparently she's filled in that hole. So new holes that she needs to fill in, I presume, are of her own making. This is the enormous problem she's got. And if I'm trying to show her a modicum of sympathy, Britain's public finances are unsustainable. We cannot keep spending in the way that we are spending. And we are, broadly speaking, taxing the economy to the maximum. You might be able to squeeze out just a little bit more tax here or a little bit more tax there, but we're scaring people off. People are either leaving the country or deciding it's not worth working. So she's in an impossible position unless she can cut spending. And we've got to have a serious discussion about cutting spending. Patrick, I'm absolutely with you. I would scrap every arts class for every illegal migrant.
£10 billion quid on universal credit for the month.
Yeah, but even this is not enough to balance the books, right? So by all means, tick off all the things we can quickly save money on. But in roundabout terms, we're going to have to cut the government budget by, 10%. Just to stabilise it. And that is going to require some big changes. And the Labour Party is not willing to contemplate anything on that scale.
What I'm not sure, Russell, that the Labour Party quite understand is the level of public anger that there is out there. And when they see their taxes go up again, or their businesses being clobbered again, or unemployment continuing to rise, and the fact that when they look at France, Germany, the US, Japan or Canada, that we are being taxed at a faster and higher rate than any of those nations, and then they continue to see the fact that we've got people who have arrived in that so-called Boris wave in 2021, legal migrants, are set to cost the taxpayer around 240 billion quid, right? We're not going to tolerate that anymore.
So we are in a doom loop. And that doom loop is that we are spending beyond our means. You know, we've gone mad with the public sector credit card. It seems that Rachel Reeves, despite her wonderful credentials as an economist, I'm smiling as I say that, Patrick, doesn't know what the Laffer curve is. Now, the Laffer curve is that thing which is pretty obvious to most of us, even those of us that are not economists, that if you keep taxing, to use an old phrase, till the pips squeak, what then happens is those people that are earning money, employing people and so on, they go, they leave, and it's happening. I've got dozens and dozens of people I know in business that are either going or have gone. Monaco, Italy, Dubai. Employers and their corporation tax, they're off, they've gone. Let's just talk about benefits for a second. Benefits were construed, understandably and acceptably, as something that was supposed to be a temporary measure to help people temporarily. We have become Benefit Britain and some supersized Benefit Britain on the basis now that we're spending £300 billion. That's about a third of the government's total budget, just having people sick with anxiety, at home, unemployed and so on. Not least the fact that we're spending an increasingly disproportionate amount on people that weren't even born here.
Well, there's some...
Using the internet without a VPN, a virtual private network, is a bit like taking to the road without car insurance. All it takes is one unlucky moment to cost you a lot of cash. This video's sponsor is Private Internet Access. They are the VPN to help keep you safe. Click the link in the description below to find out why over 30 million people have downloaded PIA to protect themselves online. A virtual private network is an app that hides your IP address and helps keep your data private. When you're browsing the internet at home, you give up a large amount of data to businesses, to shops, and indeed to social media giants too. Hackers have the ability to steal your personal data with ease, including sensitive information such as passwords, keystrokes, and even your personal photos. Private Internet Access helps protect your personal data by encrypting your internet connection to keep your data out of the hands of cyber criminals. And it's not just hackers either to be concerned about. Information can be censored too. When Canada passed their C18 bill, social media giants decided to ban news content on their platforms. But PIA can protect your ability to consume the news and content you love. Private Internet Access is available for Windows users, Mac OS, Android, Linux, iOS, and you can use one PIA subscription to protect an unlimited amount of devices. And we've got a huge GBNews discount for you too. Click the link in this video's description and you'll get a massive 83% off PIA. That's under £2 a month, the price of a coffee. And you'll get an extra 4 months completely free on top. Also, there's a 30-day money-back guarantee too. Visit piavpn.com/GBnews to start protecting yourself digitally today.
I think of it something along the lines of about 43% of GDP comes from just tax now, which
spending is about 43%.
Yeah, it's insane. So some of the things that Rachel Reeves is flying kites up about is some kind of wealth tax, so potentially that. Stopping anyone who wants to save more than £10,000 a year tax-free on the ISA. And
mansion tax on homes.
Mansion tax on homes as well. And she might do, and there's an article in the Telegraph about this today, but she might have to raise income tax as well. So which things do we think are going to be acceptable?
And VAT potentially.
And VAT.
Well, you're quite right about the benefits bill, and I would tackle it from both ends. The triple lock pension, you really seriously have to look at that. I mean, I'm speaking as a pensioner. I think that should be means tested. I really do. And then you look at the young people, the 16 to 24-year-olds. There are a million of them that are not in education, work, or training. They're just sitting there on their dot, thinking they're depressed. I mean, I don't mean to belittle people who have genuine mental health problems and emotional problems. But seriously, we can't all be Fruit Loops.
Well, there are some people playing the system, right?
Well, of course there are people playing the system. There have always been people playing the system. But you have to tackle that because it's both ends.
But it's a political hot potato, though, isn't it? Because successive parties and governments don't want to do it. They don't want to attack pensioners, despite the fact this government has, because they're voters. They're big voters.
The Conservatives have always traditionally been voted for by pensioners. But the thing is, what we must be careful about is not saying that all these billions are going to migrants, because people immediately think these are the people coming across in the boats and they're getting all this money. That's not.
There are 1.3 million people that weren't born in this country that are on benefits. 1.3 million people in this country.
Let's just look at the thing.
So 17% of everyone on universal credit is a foreign national.
Yes, but the thing is, some have come on the EU settlement scheme. They'll have a right to reside in the UK. They account for 9.8%. 2.7% of the total had indefinite leave to remain. Yeah. Refugees counted for how much? 1.5%, while 0.7% had come by safe and legal humanitarian routes, including the Ukraine and Afghan. It's a small percentage.
But we are by far the most benevolent country on the planet. There are countries like Japan, Singapore that say if you're a foreign national, you get nothing.
Do we want to live there? No, but we don't.
I don't want to pay benefits to people that rock up here expecting us to pay with their hand.
We're not. It's a tiny percentage. It's a tiny percentage.
£7 billion a year.
You're both right. It is a small percentage, but it is still a large amount of money. And look, I've plucked this number slightly out of thin air, but it's going to be of this order of magnitude. The government, this one or the next one, is going to have to find something like 100 or 150 billion pounds worth of savings. And I don't much mind whether they can find that in big blocks or if it's a billion here and a billion there and a billion somewhere else adding up to 150 billion. But that's the scale of the problem, because we can't, as Russell was saying, we basically can't tax any more. If you do so, you might get a very short-term boost. If we were to say hit people's properties, you might get a short-term boost this year, but people will decide next year to leave or at least not to come.
But the problem we have with the Labour government now is that ideology is now meeting reality, and that is when you want to do all this lovely fluffy stuff as a government. 15 months in, Rachel Reeves is now realising, you can't do the things that you wanted to do in sixth form.
But the thing is, the whole thrust of this is that the Labour government is providing sweeties, television, God knows what, for people who come across them. It is not that. The fact here is that the proportion of payments to foreign nationals has fallen since July 2024. So under Labour, they've done better than the Conservatives.
I'm universal credit, but then you also have to look at the number of people that we've got in asylum hotels. You also have to look at the number of people that we've got now who are going into social housing,
legal aid,
legal aid. But it's also not just that. If you think about very well and good, need to talk about this. In your mind, it might be a small percentage. Something like they did, for example, with the private schools fees. That was only ever, even by their calculations, going to raise a very small amount of money for
£500 million.
It's now backfired anyway. It's not raising any of that. So Labour hasn't minded trying to make these very small cuts before, but really only when it affected maybe wealthy people.
But cut net zero, 11 billion quid a year. In one foul swoop, £11 billion a year. These nonsense 20 to 25% per annum public sector pay increases for train drivers and for doctors, it's absolute nonsense.
Train drivers...
But what we know for sure is Labour.
Why are you whinging about the train drivers?
Because they're on 100 grand a year now.
Do you? They're not all on 100 grand.
The average is about 75.
Well, 75 is not 100. Stop exaggerating.
75 grand for a train driver. They do this.
Would you like a train driver?
They do this.
Nina, the problem is public sector salaries have been generously increased.
Absolutely.
More than the private sector.
And they have not been increased in line with productivity improvements. It's not because our train drivers have got more reliable. No, they've been awarded a pay rise despite the fact that there has been no improvement in productivity.
You think a train driver's worth 3 nurses, Nina, do you?
I don't think that.
I don't think so.
A nurse doesn't get 25,000.
25 to 30k average.
More than the 20, they get 30,000.
One of the things that Rachel Reeves has done before in that one was obviously she said that she'd been left with this £20 billion black hole, that she had to make decisions based around that. So when she raises taxes in this budget, whatever that's going to be, does she have to acknowledge that this is either her fault directly or the wider fault of government? For example, like the money we've had to find to give away the Chagos Islands.
Yeah, I mean, she's not going to blame it on the Chagos Islands, is she? She is almost certainly going to blame it. This is the standard political trick, because she couldn't have been clearer. We've now dealt with the Conservative legacy. I'll not have to come back for more. She's going to say it's an uncertain world out there.
Aren't they trying to blame Brexit? Didn't I see that yesterday?
Well, you can blame Brexit.
That's been priced in for years.
We are all poorer. We are all poorer because of Brexit. Yes, we are. We are. We are all. The GDP has fallen by 4%.
So
why are Germany and France? Germany and France are in a whole world of economic trouble, and they haven't Brexited.
It didn't suddenly happen last week. So you should have been able to factor that in when she came away from the last budget saying, I won't need to come back for more. Well, she suddenly remembered we've left the European Union. That slipped her mind.
May I just remind everybody, I don't vote Labour.
Fine. Yes. All right, OK. Well, look, there we go. So there was a couple of things rolling into one there. The big news, obviously, was that today Rachel Reeves finally admitted that she was going to have to raise taxes, despite saying she didn't really want to go in for any of that stuff anymore. I was just merely pointing out that there is a big area, I think, where she could make some savings, which is that whilst you're scrimping and saving because Rachel Reeves is coming for your money, you are also paying for an Afghan to have a hug at a deportation hotel. So, maybe we could cut back on little things like that.